Hello everyone and welcome to another horrific review. Steve and I are back as we continue our look at the Hammer horror franchise with the Two Faces of Dr. Jekyll, directed by Terence Fisher. Released in 1960, we follow Dr. Jekyll as he experiments with scientific means to reveal the hidden dark side of man and releases a murderer from within himself. The movie was made on a budget of £146,417 and no box office information because they obviously haven't started that yet. Or it's about hit and miss. Sometimes you'll get...
It's my new Apple Watch.
I thought it was a killer tomato there for a second. Oh, dear. This is the true horror of the streams or the jokes.
He's on the Orange Network.
Oh, dear God, no. I'm going to... Oh, wait, I'm home.
Good evening.
Welcome back, as always, to terrorize the audience.
Yeah, this is the best horror, isn't it?
Absolutely. Right, we're 11 movies in the Hammer series, and I really thought we were about to get a whole bad run there, but quite enjoyed this one.
Yeah, I thought it was like a Hammer horror with a bit of class, wasn't it? It's very
cerebral.
Yeah. Because you could think at first, like, mind you, the opening music. If you were a person who was there to watch a horror film and you suddenly put on the opening music, you think, like I did, am I watching the right film?
Yeah, it was very jolly and upbeat, and you're like, what is going on?
I suppose it sort of mirrored the scene when they were dancing around in the because it was that type of music, wasn't it, for the opening? It was just a shock to start. You know what we've gone on about with music before, like in the Amicus films, where the music just doesn't fit the sort of scene, does it? But this was like, I had the film on and I thought, is this the right film?
Yeah, it's like, oh no, maybe go watch.
And then it came out, the Two Faces. I thought, oh yeah.
That's because it's happened sometimes, and I go and then look at the trailer because just to make sure, because sometimes you're like, things on the internet, especially IMDb is terrible. Yeah. That's the worst database. Honestly, if I kept the database like that, I'd be fired.
It's like the Wikipedia of films, isn't it?
It's so shambolic. There's yes, last Sunday I was reading out and the director was wrong and they didn't credit the actors, and just the whole thing's a mess.
Yeah.
And that's supposed to be Amazon, Amazon MGM own that thing.
Oh,
the professionals,
yeah.
We're just the mere peasants. They're the professionals that
so-called professors. Yeah, but this film was I enjoyed it. I thought it was class for a Hammer horror. With all the rest, there was none of the sort of scariness of like the Christopher Lee in Dracula. The real horror, but this was just like
this is psychological horror. This is proper,
and it was very, very well done. And believe it or not, I could hardly find any mistakes. One or two
Paul Massey's beard.
Yeah, the beard sort of moved.
The was like on the edge. I picked that one up. I'm like,
pull it off, stick it on, and a couple of boom mics. That was about it. And it's very. But I just thought, what a classy film,
and a dramatic change in film quality as well.
Yeah, very, very much so. And Christopher Lee, the part he played. I thought he was,
that is a man that is not. Both him and Peter Cushing are not what you would expect of a Hollywood star. They're the antithesis of that. They will play the part they're given.
Yeah,
Like, Christopher Lee's playing an absolute tit in this. Like, he's a fool of a man.
yeah. He's quite vile, really. He's causing more or less a marriage breakup, isn't he? And cheating on his mate, and he's borrowing money left, right, and centre, and yeah,
He's an addict. You can't trust addicts.
no,
Mate, the bleeding heart, fluffy pearl clutching types might get annoyed with me, but you cannot trust an addict.
no.
You're dealing with an individual that will sell you. If they could, they will sell you to get their next fix of whatever. And it's not even the substance. Everyone focuses on the substance. It's the behavior. It's a self-destructive behavior, and an addict will bring anybody down with them. And they're the only ones that can come out of that.
Yeah.
I have pretty strong views about the subject. That's trying not to go into it, but you may have picked up on the show once or twice. I have quite definitive lines.
Speaking from some experience,
I've been burnt.
Not of me, but someone very close to home. I know what you're on about.
Yeah, funny enough, I grew up with it, not necessarily in my family. Well, a bit, but I've grown up with people and addiction and just the culture, and it's horrible. You'll see people will sell the shirt off their back.
Yeah.
And gambling addicts are actually worse than substance abusers.
They'll borrow your PlayStation and then
when they're up, they're life and soul of the party. They're buying all the drinks. They're that, and then the next day they can't afford toothpaste. There's loads of it in the army. It was ridiculous. Especially those stupid slot machines.
Yeah.
I'd watch people put their entire salary, and not even wage, I'm talking salary, into those things. And horses and, oh God, there's just one guy and flipping, you'd watch him, and this is even before, it's probably worse now because you can do it on your phone without even going, but they'll go in and they just flipping wads of cash.
Yeah.
And like I said, it's a spiral when they're up, the life and soul of the party, and they don't think like the next day. It's all for the moment. And
Royal Mail used to pay in cash weekly back in the late 80s, and it's the worst thing they could have done on Friday, because the night shift on the Friday, they used to go down in their break between 9 and 10 o'clock in the evening, once the mail had gone on the train, go down to the Stuart Road Club. They used to get drunk at all these postmen and go on the fruit machines, come back, and they'd spent all their wages.
It's
life.
I'll mask his beard like Scooby-Doo. They actually did it in reverse this time, because normally you expect the monster to be putting on the prosthetics.
Yeah.
But they've done this in reverse. It's actually, if you think about the time this was made, this is way ahead of its time.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and the thing is as well with this one, it was very intelligent, because when you think about Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, you think of the old man disappearing behind the sofa, coming up, and he's a monster, don't you?
Yeah, and he's,
in the actual story, they actually put the story to start with when what's his name, Dr. Henry Jekyll was out in the garden watching the kids. He actually put the story more or less saying that people are different and have like two personalities. But they kept it as two normal looking people, really, didn't they? And
they didn't do the boogeyman thing.
Like you said, it was psychological. It was the ugliness was in the characterization of just what he was doing. Like when that guy tried to extract money out of him because he gives a girl a bad time, didn't he? And he was there whacking him with the thing, and Christopher Lee had to stop him. And it was all about the ugliness of the character. Where one was a doctor who was being cheated on by his.
But it wasn't clear cut anyway, because there's an ugliness to Dr. Jekyll.
Well, there is, yeah.
Everyone's a lab rat, everyone's a guinea pig, and he doesn't care. His marriage is just there for society. He cares about his
Yeah.
work, and you know, I mean, people are just commodities to be used. Even his charitable act of letting the kids from the workhouse play in his garden, you know, is still
Yeah.
he wants to observe them.
Yeah.
So it's not clear cut who's the villain and who's the hero, because both characters, you know, are have an ugliness to them, and his repressed, you know, him being repressed and unfeeling and cold actually brings its own problems.
Yeah. Yeah. It's I thought it was very it's intellectual class, this movie. I thought, yeah, it's not your usual horror film.
No, and especially for the time.
And someone who says, "Oh, I don't really like horror films," could have probably got away with watching this one without actually, you know, being shock horrored, and like, you know, if they were frightened of Christopher Lee in Dracula sticking his cloak around and biting a few necks, you know, this one they could have probably got away with watching, and it could have been classed as a psychological thriller, you know, as opposed to a horror film.
Yeah, but at the same time, though, this is what I've tried to highlight in this channel, is that horror is such a wide-ranging genre.
Yeah.
Everyone just views it through the prism of slasher movie. That's it. That's what they think the entirety of the horror genre is. And what makes this more than the thriller is it goes deeper. You know, it makes you unsettled because it's making you think, God, this could be in me. And anyone who's anyway self-reflective knows that it is in us. You know, we can look at ourselves, I guess.
Yeah.
If you have any sort of self-awareness about yourself, you know, about your psyche or what makes you tick or where you can go, or if you've been tested in any way by life, you know, the people that have no self-reflection haven't been tested by life. They've lived in a bubble and they've never burst it, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Because this was written by Robert Louis Stevenson, wasn't it?
Oh, the original, yeah. Yeah, that's where the original tale's from.
Louis Stevenson.
The Terrible Tale of Dr. Jekyll or something, you know.
Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll.
The Strange Case of Dr. Yeah.
1986.
Sorry, maybe I should have looked that up so I could look smart on stream.
Yeah. It's quite a... Yeah.
I don't think Robert Louis Stevenson gets enough credit for the horror stories he's told.
The in the notes here it says they didn't actually credit him in the credits on this film because he was dead. And they didn't see the need to credit him.
I think this is probably, if you think about successful writers now, like there's probably a Robert Louis Stevenson estate, like a Tolkien estate, you know, the Fleming estate. There's something I found out recently that Christopher Lee is Ian Fleming's cousin.
Oh, is he?
It was actually, you know that film that came out there, the Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare?
Yeah.
So Fleming based his character of James Bond on the actual Major in that movie. You know, when it was based on a real unit, it was like the precursor for the SAS. But of course, Fleming was a Navy man, so he made him a Navy commander rather than an Army major, because that's the way it works. Forces rivalry.
Didn't Ian Fleming also write Chitty Chitty Bang Bang?
I couldn't tell you.
I'm sure he did. I think if you look at Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, it was written by Ian Fleming.
Probably wouldn't surprise me. I wouldn't disagree. I just don't know. But yeah, Christopher Lee's Ian Fleming's cousin.
Yeah. Ian Fleming wrote the novel of Chitty Chitty Bang Bang.
There you go.
And then he wrote James Bond.
But have you read any of the actual James Bond novels?
One.
I've read a couple. Like the strangest one's actually Octopussy.
Yeah.
It's nothing like the film, not even remotely. It's about a warlord with an octopus in a tank, and the octopus kills him. James Bond appears for like a scene, and it's a strange little novella.
Yeah.
Um,
Hmm.
but yeah, I just would have looked more into it and realized that. But here's the thing: the nepotism of film, and this is something I've been bringing up as well. The whole idea that a certain class of people are only allowed, especially in the UK, it's really terrible for art. Only a certain class of people are allowed to be artists. Can't have
Yeah,
those terrible working class people have an imagination, and it's got really worse. But it still existed back then. But there was a requirement for talent as well. You didn't get a free ride.
no. And the free ride situation is. Well, I think that's what's causing the downfall of cinema in today is all this rubbish that they're putting out left, right, and centre. Um, you know, you think directors would have been fired back
Oh, your
um,
careers
in
would have been
the
over.
50s and 60s if they put out some of the crap that they put out today. Um,
Well, they
you know,
couldn't make this movie today. This movie is too intellectual for today's
yeah,
audience. Like,
oh
honestly,
yeah,
it would hurt their brains to try and replicate it. They couldn't do it.
they wouldn't have been able to do the transformation between Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. That would have had to have been CGI'd. Just taking his bloody
I'll
and
tell you what, though. Like I said, it was only one or two scenes with the beard, Luke Bab, but for the rest of it,
mm,
Paul Massey did an amazing job, and his voice. I don't know how
yeah,
much of that was altered and him putting it on. There was definitely a bit of alteration with the voice.
yeah, but
But,
it
oh my
didn't
god,
didn't
it was.
it didn't falter. You never had any like we said about the French accents the other day, where on the previous films where they went from French to sort of broken English to
Yeah.
back to French accent. This
Well, this one's set in London anyway, so they can use their own accents.
the deeper voice of Dr. Jekyll compared to the Playboy voice of Mr. Hyde,
Hmm.
you never heard the difference. There was none in and out. It was one or the other.
Yep.
Um,
But when they blended it, when he's having the inner conflict,
yeah, he was,
there
yeah,
was actually the change in tone and everything else. You're like, bloody hell, that is good effects. Like, they
yeah.
can't
He
do
didn't
that
falter.
today.
No, Canadian actor. Yes, Massey. He's been in quite a lot of TV as opposed
Mhm.
to films, but yeah, Canadian actor. But he made his name in British cinema.
Mhm.
Um, even though he was a Canadian actor, he got well known through British cinema and TV. So
That annoys me the way British cinema just died, and there was no reason for it.
we,
And
we we could offer so much more than Hollywood can be.
oh god, well, Hollywood's dead. I had this argument with Cameron last week. I want
Mm,
Hollywood finished. I wanted it as an entity, not to be saved, but just to be destroyed and
yeah,
decentralized, so that there's smaller studios, not these stupid multi-million-dollar corporations, because it just kill creativity. It's just a
yeah,
fad. Imagine training to become a chef, a Michelin star chef, and then working in a fast food joint. That's basically creativity today. You could be the best actor in the world, but you flipping, honed your craft,
yeah.
sweated nights on stage, and then you go and work in bloody Hollywood, and you may as well flip burgers. It's the equivalent.
Well,
Um,
you see a lot of these reality TV programs like Gordon Ramsay, don't you? Where they go into a restaurant that's based in like Los Angeles, and all the waiters in the restaurant and everything claim to be actors,
mhm.
and they're unemployed actors that work as waiters and things like that. And yeah, it's I
Look
think
at the people that have been on the show who basically have a team of people that they don't even do it they have full-time jobs, but they come together to make movies.
yeah,
You know, you don't need to be super everyone. It's either like top of the pile or bottom of the pile. There's no levels, and that's what's wrong. There's no shortage of desire for entertainment. and there's stuff
No.
being created all the time. But I'm just sick and tired of the corporate machine. It just needs to go. And
Yeah.
we're getting, the movies are dumb. Like, they're really just, there's nothing to them. And what's funny now is, especially in the horror genre, because cinema's in trouble, they're latching on to like movies that are coming out that normally wouldn't even land on the radar, if that makes sense. Like Longlegs is a good example.
Yeah.
That's an indie movie that shouldn't even be in the mainstream zeitgeist, and yet it's become one of the most talked about movies of the last month.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't be. Like, we've seen loads of movies like this. Like, there's tons, and flipping Nick Cage does a movie every other week.
Yeah.
But because people are not desperate for something different, and they're sick of the corporate slop, they're getting excited about anything and everything. And the marketing departments, you can see how stupid they are. They don't have a clue how to market. They don't understand the properties. Like, to me, there should be a company that markets horror. That's what they focus on, and they understand the genre. Same as not just a generic marketing company that, oh, right, let's slap this label on it and it's done. This wouldn't be marketable today. They wouldn't know how to categorize it.
No, they'd be there scratching their heads thinking, oh, well, there's a possible love scene in it. Shall we put it down to love? Oh, no way, there is a bit thriller. Let's put it there. They wouldn't know.
They break their brains, and because it's not the traditional.
They wouldn't even know its classification to give it, would they?
No. And
think, oh.
And it's not even, it doesn't even have the one classic, it crosses subgenres. It's psychological, but it's also science fiction horror as well.
Yeah.
You've got the blending of the two, which, that's what people used to do. They didn't just used to stay there in a box. Oh, here's the box that the movie goes into. Clunk, it stays there and doesn't move.
Yeah. No, no, very clever movie. And you because of the sort of history of the Dr. Jekyll thing, as soon as you see the name Dr. Jekyll, you think, I know what this is about. Mm-hmm. He's gonna change, but of course you think he's going to change into a monster initially, but he doesn't. He changes into this almost Playboy type person.
The part of Dr. Jekyll that he represses and hides away.
Yeah.
And there's a deeper, there's a deeper conversation here about being a full person, because if you lock parts of yourself away and you repress yourself and don't express yourself in a healthy manner, then that's where deviancy and darkness comes out, because it comes out in the wrong way. You look at 90% of sex crimes, and it's usually the most upright citizen, nose up in the air, awfully present the decent, the decent image, and that's usually hiding the darkest, the burden, because they're cutting all aspects of himself to project this image. Look at today. Look at the flipping, the preachers of today, of both sides. The people that preach love and kindness and inclusivity are the nastiest bastards you'll ever meet.
Yeah.
They are truly nasty people, but because they're projecting this facade of love all and love this, they're basically going, well, who can I hate? And they're looking for permission, and that's why they're the first to grab the burning torches and pitchforks, because their love and hate are natural parts of your being. The difference is, as a functioning human, that you own the emotions; they don't own you.
2 secs.
All right, buddy. Yeah, I like these sort of movies because they do make you think, and they make you explore yourself.
Cole left the rice maker on.
Oh, right. I still use a wee pot. I had rice earlier on. I still use a wee pot, and I've got like my cup, and I fill up there, and I've just got my little formula. But yeah, films like this make you think, and they make you reflect on who you are as a person.
Yeah.
And that's always the most useful aspect of art, of any shape or form.
it is a very classy, artistic type of film, isn't it?
Mhm.
It's you know, even down to the characters. He's a doctor, and you know, he's doing these. It's none of your cut up body experiments. It's something that you could believe.
Well, today, think about it.
Yeah, you
Look
know,
at the LSD trials of the
get all
70s.
these consultant psychiatrists and things like that doing these sort of things, don't you, on human psyche. And,
Just look at the country of America. That is one massive pharmaceutical experiment. Americans rattle as they walk because they've freaking that many pills in them. You know, I mean, this pill, and then another pill to balance out that pill, and then have to take a third pill to balance out the two other pills, and then another, you know, chaser of a pill, because when the two pills mix, they create a reaction, so they need another. And they're just like jars, you know, of pills just rattling about the place.
Yeah.
And people are uppers and downers and lefters and righters, and you know, it's happening today. And that's I can barely take an aspirin because I see all this stuff and I'm like, nah, not for me. Thank you very much.
I rattle. Oh, that's a point. What day is it today? Monday. Isn't it?
Today's Monday.
I took my pills. This is my pills.
That's a good analogy, Chris. Fast food. Yeah, fast food trucks, independent restaurants. You know, what you say over there, mom and pop restaurants, you know, individual chains that restaurants, but you know, you can have individual publishing companies, you can have individual studios. They just don't need to be owned by one company. That's where everything's gone tits up. That's why you've got this sort of generic slop. And even Hammer, like I said, we're 11 movies in, and I don't think we've really had 2 movies the same.
No, not really, because they haven't even repeated Dracula immediately or Frankenstein, have they? They've
not even
left it so many films before they, you know, they go on to the sort of next.
And plus, I took out all the non-horror movies out of the list.
Yeah,
you know, I mean, Hammer Horror is part of, you know, Hammer Productions is the overall company, and they made adventure series. They did Sinbad, they did Sherlock Holmes. You know, I mean, the loads of different movies in between. So if you're just looking at Hammer as a whole,
they
didn't just do the one type of movie. But even within the Hammer Horror section, even the Quatermass 1 and 2 were different movies to each other.
Yeah,
and The Revenge of Frankenstein and The Curse of Frankenstein, you know, were different movies with different focus. Yeah, even and they were direct sequels to each other, but they're still telling different stories.
Yeah, it's not something that they think immediately. Oh, Dracula was a success. Let's put another one out next year. You know, let's get going, because that's what they do in Hollywood these days, isn't it? They think, oh, that one's made $1 million. We'll do another one for next year.
The movies don't make $1 million anymore.
$1 million. Not $1 million, $1 billion.
But they can barely break even now. That's the problem. Their production costs are stupid.
But
that's their chickens coming home to roost, and I have no sympathy.
Because what was this one at a budget of
150 grand.
150 grand, which was less than the last Hammer Horror one we looked at. Wasn't the one before 258 or something?
Yeah, it was 240 or something like that.
Yeah. And
this told a better story and much more engaging.
Yeah. And if you think of it, it had more or less the same production team. It was filmed in the Bray Studios again. Over in Berkshire. Terence Fisher directed, had the same musical team.
Well, they just told a better story, you know.
It was very. It's hard to say. It was a classy type of movie, and even down as far as everything seemed to fit together in the continuity was just there, and you expected the next scene. You didn't think, hold on, where's this come from?
It all followed a logical conclusion.
Straight
Even
on in because one of the things when Edward Hyde went in to lend Christopher Lee's character, Paul Allen, the money, and he says, "Oh, I'll sub you for $5,000." You thought, I was expecting that to happen, but I didn't know if it was going to happen,
because the way that it was all part of a plan.
Jekyll turned him down, didn't he, and said, more or less, I'm not funding you anymore. But it was all part of the plan, I think.
But we'll get that at the end. It's actually the two are fighting against each other.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean, using the voice, and even the way Massey plays the character. Do you know what? Like, some of the action scenes with Peter Cushing have been abysmal. They just don't get action. But because this is a character piece, Massey's actually been able to portray. When he doesn't throw the head pan camera. He's changed. He's still himself.
Yeah.
But the internal conflict between the two entities in the same body.
Yeah.
That
Edward Hyde comes out, doesn't he? And he says
briefly, but even when Edward Hyde's going about, he doesn't get it. When Edward Hyde's out and about, Dr. Jekyll's fighting him.
Yeah.
So it's not just a one-sided battle.
No.
So Hyde is just as tormented as Jekyll, and that's what makes this really fascinating, because it's not paint by numbers. Here's the body, here's the goodie.
Because you got to ask yourself, was it the outcome that the original Dr. Jekyll actually wanted? Because he was like experimenting, wasn't he, on the human psyche?
Well, he was doing it on animals. The only person experimented on was himself.
He did it to that animal, didn't he? And he says, he turned him nasty, didn't he? The guy said, Dr. Littra. He says, "Oh, you've turned him nasty, this animal," and he says, "Yeah, he'll be all right in 4 hours." And of course, then in several scenes, which you'd expect, was he was Edward Hyde, and then suddenly he nearing the time limit when he was going back, and that's when his voice started going back to Dr. Jekyll's voice, didn't it? And then he'd go back to Edward Hyde's voice, and then suddenly go back to...
But it was interesting that Dr. Jekyll's was the deeper, more monstrous voice.
Yeah.
Nobody is blameless in this movie.
No.
Obviously, apart from the police inspectors and anyone just, but with the main characters, Jekyll, Kitty, Paul... the three of them, none of them are blameless.
Even Dr. Littra, he knew really what was going on with the experiment. In that day and age, because it was 1886, it's supposed to be, wasn't it?
1870. I'd say it on the thing. It's 1870.
Right. To try and experiment with such things would have been quite a no-no, wouldn't it? To try and change animals' characters, and because it was quite his shock horror when he what sort of animal was it? A rat, wasn't it?
No, it was a monkey. Like a
monkey. Yeah, I think I've watched so many crap movies.
It was the monkeys that the vendors used to do for taking the photographs with. Well, I can't remember what it was called, the breed.
Macaques, isn't it? Anyway, he says he was quite shocked that the monkey was being made to go through this testing process, because he had a look of shock on his face by saying, "You've turned this monkey nasty," so to speak, and as if to say, "What the hell have you done that for? It's an animal."
Yeah, the thought of it and doing it on a person. And Kitty tries to get him committed at the start, and you're like, what the hell is this? You think it's a bit of an overreaction, but then you realize that she's got an ulterior motive herself. But it's all connected. It's not just you can't put the blame in one person's door in this. Everyone's had a part to play in each other's downfall because of their. And I think that's what this is about. Actually, it's about excess. It's about suppression and living the excess and overindulgence and not being true to yourself. It's not lying to yourself. There's a lot of deep thought in this movie and topics covered.
And you don't only look at one character.
No, you can't. You miss a whole story.
If you watch, some other films, you're concentrating on the one character because he's the main. He or she may be the main protagonist. This one, you've got so many egos in this film. You've got Dr. Jekyll, who's running experiments. You've got Mr. Hyde, who's really reacting to his Dr. Jekyll's wife's or wife to be her infidelity of going with Christopher Lee,
which Dr. Jekyll caused because of his becoming a recluse, and shutting himself away in his obsession.
And then you got Christopher Lee, who's a gambling playboy who's borrowing money from Dr. Jekyll.
Yeah,
and what a circle of characters.
And then, God, I forget her name, but she's the only real victim in this, the dancer.
Maria,
yeah. She didn't do anything wrong. She's the only one that really didn't do anything wrong in this.
Yeah. Yeah, she was just a dancer with a snake, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm. Although, in fairness, that poor snake.
Sticking his snake's head.
Even just throwing it about the place and stuff, you're like, I think that having the band that now, you're not allowed to do that anymore.
No, not animals, are you? Because I tell you where they got stopped was, do you know the WWE wrestling? Jake the Snake. He used to come on carrying a snake on.
All right, I've heard it
on the wrestling, and he got stopped doing that some time ago, back before he retired. But yeah, he used to carry a snake on live on, and he used to frighten the other wrestlers and everything with this snake.
Yeah, that's wrong.
Yeah,
and that's one of the reasons it's movies like this that. Why snakes and reptiles get such a bad reputation.
Yeah,
they're made out to be complete. Like it's a boa flipping constrictor. It's not even they're the placid one. It's the reticulated pythons are the more aggressive. Like it's the flipping boa. It's the most placid of the constrictors you can get.
Yeah. It's like spiders. I when people say they're afraid of spiders, I say, well. What, the little ones or the big ones? They say, the big ones, can't stick the big ones. That's just so.
But if
all spiders bite you.
Yeah.
If you've got a little house spider on your hand, he's biting you, all right?
Or it's throwing the hairs. What people don't realize, they go up and they throw hairs at you. It's actually not a bite, but their defense mechanisms actually, because venomous creatures actually need their venom to digest their prey.
Yeah.
It's the same as cobras and everything else. It's actually they don't have a good digestive system. It's not just a hunting mechanism, but they need it to actually break down and swallow. If they don't do that, they can't actually eat.
Yeah.
It's part of their, it's all part of it. Yeah, I'm a bit of a nerd in this. But it's actually cruel. Like people define cobras and stuff to keep them and actually hurts them because they need to inject the venom to break down the prey. Because their digestive systems can't cope with it.
Yeah.
So they never live too long. It's cruel. But you could, I don't know if you've ever held trances, but you have to be super careful because if you drop it, you kill the thing straight away. It's dead.
Yeah, I've held a trance. There was a guy who, where I used to live when I was growing up, he actually had a pet tarantula. He used to bring it out with him. He used to have it on a glove. Because he said the hair used to
they shoot what they do is they put the front thing as a defense mechanism. They shoot hairs. It's actually the hairs that get in and irritate you more than a bite because it saves the bite for its prey because it needs it.
But
they're not willy-nilly.
Actually, but that's where he used to tell me loads about spiders, and I used to say to him because I was young and about, oh, you'll get bit by the tarantula. I've seen all the films, like, you know,
Mhm.
you'll turn into a spider yourself and all this crap. And he was just a nerd on spiders.
Mhm.
Yeah, no,
Yeah, that's my only complaint about this movie, the way that poor snake was portrayed.
yeah.
And
And
it's a
but
trope of the day, you know, and
go back to 1960, it was allowed.
mhm.
So if you think that you're watching it back then, it wouldn't have been a problem. These days, you think we're very much animal lovers now, aren't we? In this
But
day
even
and
just
age.
accurate portrayals of animal, you know, animals can be dangerous, but they're misunderstood. Like one that still gets a bad rap today are alligators.
Yeah,
And I watch, like, when I'm not watching horror, that's what I do. I watch flipping animal sanctuary videos. That's my palate cleanser. I watch a flipping people running about with animal sanctuaries and looking after gators and water monitors and stuff. And oh my god, they're beautiful. Like, and you see people that act calmly and train them, and they know their names, and they're so intelligent.
yeah.
And it's really, hmm?
Couple of years ago, went to Florida for a
Mhm.
holiday, and we rented kayaks and went on this lake. And the guy says to us, he says, "Just watch out for any alligators." We went, "Alligators?" But this is a like private lake. He says, "Oh yeah, they're coming now." So he says, "If you see any," he says, "can you row back and tell me that they're there?" I says, "If I see any," I says, "you'll be the last person I'll be." I says, "I'll be getting to shore as fast as I can in whichever direction I'm going."
Yeah.
But yeah, he really made a thing about telling us that there could be alligators in this lake
But
thing. He
the
says,
thing is, anywhere where there's somebody did it, it was Louisiana. I saw it on Facebook actually. This lady goes up to the edge of the water, goes, "Here's how you test for alligators, right?" And she goes, "Right, put your hand in the water, test the water, right? Is the water wet?" Then there's gators. Oh my
"Yeah,
god, absolutely genius. She did it brilliantly. And the proper Louisiana draw and stuff she did, and I'm just like, you win. You win the internet today. I couldn't share because it's Facebook that are weird about that. You know, when they do the real things.
yeah,
You can't, but I just like, yes, you win the internet.
yeah."
No, but they can
Yeah,
hide in a puddle. Like, you can have a 10-foot alligator in a bloody puddle
yeah, and
and not
they're
walk past it.
still, aren't they? They'll wait until to you
Well,
see
they're
them on.
ambush predators. They're not hunters.
No, you get all these sort of antelopes and everything going to drink, and the antelopes are like so cautious, and they know there's something around, and they're pulling back and they're pulling back, and suddenly the alligator just goes poof like that.
Yeah.
Um,
But
yeah, but
circle, I
this
put
was
it.
funny in Florida. Yeah, there could be alligators there.
Yeah, I
What?
was based there. I did an
Well,
exchange.
let's
And
go kayaking and with no like.
I think I have some pictures of my profile. My personal one of gators, because when I was based over there, I was did an exchange 2006 or something.
Yeah.
So in Camp Landon, and sure enough, you're out and exercise, and you're flipping. You know what I mean? You get within sight, you get the camera out, and you're flipping. You're taking pictures of them. It's great. I'm an idiot. I'd just pet the puppy. You know, I'd die because I'd like, oh, it's cute. Try and pet it. But yeah, that's my only complaint. Just the way that portrayed the pool, especially as the plot progresses, it was just it's
Yeah.
daft now. But everything else about this movie is really clever.
Yeah, and like I said, the continuity of the cleverness. It flows. This film. There's no sort of break as if to say, "Oh, we're going in that direction now." It just keeps to the storyline, and you get a sense of what's happening,
Mm-hmm.
and you stick with it, and you're thinking, "What's going to happen next?" Even though you might know sort of the story of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, this was it wasn't the complete story. It was its own adaptation,
Yeah,
but
that's
you wanted to know where it was going, even though
mm,
it was kept within sort of the walls of
yeah. It's just, you know, I mean, you don't you recognize this as the Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde story, but it's taken with a
yeah,
different slant. And once again, even that's done clever because you're not destroying the characters.
No.
And it's just having a bit more of a nuanced discussion as such about the nature of them and, the reasons why Jekyll performs his experiments.
Yeah. And the good thing about this one as well is you can actually relate the Hyde Jekyll characters to people out there today.
Mm-hmm.
That you think, oh my God, this
Well,
just like my
see the current Be Kind crowd.
Yeah.
We're so nice and we're so tolerant.
Yeah.
We're so inclusive. See that crowd? That's the Dr. Jekylls and Mr. Hydes of today.
Yeah.
They're putting all this effort in this virtue signaling and putting on a facade. And what they're doing is they're not living life. They're doing this tunnel. So what they're looking for is a way to let out their nastiness because they won't acknowledge that that's part of being a human. You love, you hate, you like, you dislike. We all discriminate. That's how we choose our friends, our family, our partners. Do you know what I mean? That's all part of it. Obviously, it's all about how far an extreme you go to. When does it become too much of an extreme? And that's what this thing covers. It's all about you as a person and recognizing a bit of yourself that might go too far, but also understanding that if you repress it, it's like a pressure cooker.
Yeah.
And if you're not a fully fledged person, if you don't accept all parts, dark, light, reserved, flamboyant, if you don't accept all that as part of yourself, you're not a full person. And then you're just a ticking time bomb and you're just waiting for that one incident. And that's, like I said, it's the most clean-cut individuals are the ones that are found in the most depraved things.
Yeah.
It's just interesting that the Be Kind crowd of today are the ones that when they get the chance, they will leave people, they will kill people. You know what I mean? They will, when they get permission to hate, they will go full throttle and they want somebody destroyed. That's not healthy.
It's given the message that all killers are not the sort of down and out robbers from, Bill Sykes in Oliver or something like that. It's these.
But it's always been that case.
Well-known doctors and things like that are.
Well, Jack the Ripper was a classic case of a reason why they couldn't, or they couldn't solve it is because it became apparent that he was a member of high society. He was possibly a surgeon or a doctor. Yeah. And their brain, the psyche, couldn't cope with the fact that it wasn't a lowlife. It was actually some respected individual. And it just, once again, if you live in that bubble, and if that's all it takes to rock your entire universe, that's not a good, healthy place to be. It's like people that put their entire personality into a fandom. For example,
some of the serial killers of today, you look at Dr. Harold Shipman. Doctor.
Yeah. And more recently there, I know there's questions, but if you take it as she was convicted, Lucy Letby.
Lucy Letby, nurse, yeah.
There's the caring individual.
Intelligent people. And it's not only the people that are supposedly, unintelligent and robbers and things like that do it.
It's those sort of people that, and we're seeing the high society, like the scenes in the club, we're seeing the high society, mixing with the absolute degenerates all in the same nightclub.
Yeah.
And that was a thing in Victorian times anyway. That happened, it was the rich looking for a thrill.
Yeah.
And people playing their trade, ladies of the night and so forth. That was all mixed. And what was it? The Cray, that legend, the one with Tom Hardy.
Tom Hardy, yeah.
They portrayed that. Why is it the upper class hang out with the criminals? It's that element of danger and that the thing that they cut off from themselves, so they indulge in the worst way possible.
Yeah,
it's the same as you see it in the working classes as well. They get so militant that they cut themselves off. Then it comes out in alcoholism and other ways.
Yeah.
It's this whole movie is that conversation. That's partly why I like it so much, because I like to explore that side of humanity. I've had this conversation hundreds of times.
Yeah.
And I've had these discussions, not in this channel, but I've had these discussions. It's something that fascinates me, is how the human mind is made up, and when there are indulgences become compulsion.
Yeah.
And how you're always walking the tightrope, because if you don't indulge, it becomes a compulsion because you're denying a facet of yourself.
Mm.
And it's all about healthy expression, which once again we're seeing today, people don't have healthy expression.
No. What's the program actually this morning while I was having my breakfast on how we're sort of moored into not saying anything. It was have you heard of a guy called Douglas Murray?
Yes.
Yeah.
I have. The Madness of Crowds.
Yeah, he speaks his mind. I think he was on there this morning saying about all the things that are happening, and how you're not allowed to speak your mind, but he doesn't give a damn. He's going to speak his mind if he wants to. And
keep talking to them, still in your phones.
Yeah, no worries. What's your build? What's your builder's bum there? Yeah, all about expressing yourself. You're just not allowed to do it these days, are you? It's you got to watch what you say, watch your P's and Q's, and it's a wonder we haven't got into trouble on here for The Madness of Crowds, Douglas Murray.
This book, sorry, I knew I had it somewhere. He's I haven't read The Strange Death of the Year, but he goes into all this.
Yeah.
And this book actually made me angry, not because of what he said, but just the examples he gave of people actually, what the things that they said, and the just utter nastiness.
Yeah.
And it's who do I hate? I'm a nice person. Who do I have permission to hate? Oh, you're giving me permission to hate this person. Let's go.
Yeah.
And then that's, people don't understand. That's why the 1930s happened.
Oh, yeah.
People, people are just so repressed, so angry, and that, well, give me somebody to hate. You can hate these people, and sure enough, events played out as it did. That's always the danger.
He's actually given a warning to the British government, more or less, saying you're going to have to watch yourself in the next few years because there's going to be a revolution. Because the British people are fed up with being told what they can and can't say and do. And
once again, if you're oppressing yourself, it's going to come out in a dark way. This movie, and it is obviously not in the politics and stuff in this channel, as you know, we don't. But this is the greater discussion of the human psyche. What happens when you start cutting people off from experience, expressing ideas or exploring themselves, or just, I'm not happy with this because, oh, shut up, be quiet. All that stuff festers, and eventually it's the tinderbox.
Yeah.
And we've seen it hundreds and hundreds. We've seen it with individuals. We've seen it with societies. We've seen it with groups. We've seen it with religion. You look for some of the worst crimes are committed within religions. Always the religious person that, the super cut, whatever it might be, they're the ones that always end up turning out to have the people chained up in the basement.
Yeah.
I always say today, beware the male feminist. If somebody says they're a male feminist, you run, because they've got 6 poor ladies chained up in the basement.
Yeah.
It's just that projection of virtue. It's the
but even down as far if you think horror, really you're told in an indirect way that you shouldn't watch horror, because if you watch horror, you'll become one of them, isn't it?
We had the discussion. Were you part of that one? Morality and horror?
Yeah.
Didn't you take part in that one?
I'm sure I did, yeah.
Well, we did a whole discussion on the moral message of horror. Horror is the warning. This movie isn't celebrating Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. It's warning you not to do it.
Yeah.
That's the whole point.
Yeah, because the outcome is, this guy's got two personalities and they're both quite nasty.
Yeah, they're both extremes, and they're
Yeah.
not pleasant people because he's not reconciled as a human being, and it's coming out in extreme measures. Dr.
Yeah.
Jekyll is no innocent here.
No.
Like, and especially when he pushes the wee girl down, he's ready to strike her. Like,
yeah.
That's his personality. That wasn't Hyde. That's his. When he looks at them at like pieces of meat.
Yeah, because the poor little, up until then, the poor little girl, so they told him at the beginning of the film, actually looked up to him.
Yeah. Idolized him.
He pushes her down and he's there staring at her, and he's like, it just changes her perception of him in a matter of a few seconds.
She gets a wake-up call, in moments where, like I said, Maria, there's another one who's just, she's in her little bubble. She's used to being in control. And then she falls victim herself.
Yeah.
Because of her excesses, she's never experienced love because of what she does and the people that are always after her for status of being with her, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
She's in that world, so she doesn't actually know true affection. And then, of course, she falls head over heels with Hyde, a person who's unable to show love and affection. Neither Jekyll nor Hyde know love.
No.
And what's interesting, well, see the people that preach as well, love, they don't know it. That's why it's almost like they're yearning, screaming, searching for it, because they don't know what it is to actually experience that emotion.
In there, because Jekyll's in a relationship with Kitty, but it's a relationship of convenience.
A marriage of convenience for society, and she's
because he doesn't really want to be in a relationship, but his status would more or less say these days, oh, you should be. It's there's lots of little messages, isn't there, in the film that if you delve in deeper.
Do you remember movies used to be subtle? Today it's like a brick over the head. Think this. Here's the message. Movies have no subtlety whatsoever, and here you can. And it also depends. Like, there might be people watch this movie and get nothing from it. Really, it all depends on your life experience.
Yeah,
and how introspective you are. If you're not an introspective person,
you could just see it as a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Oh, I know the story. He turns into a monster.
Mm-hmm.
You could just see it like that. But if you delve deeper into, like we have, the characterizations of everyone, then and the way the story goes, you think, ooh, this is deep class. It's
all done within an hour and a half as well. So the thought pieces of today that need to be 2.5 hours long because the writers are shit.
Yeah.
And it doesn't need to cost hundreds of millions.
No.
That expectation as well goes out the window.
Yeah.
It's having a good story and having good characters portrayed. You could tell any story you want and you can explore, because that's what art's meant to be. It's meant to be an exploration as much as just, you've got your popcorn flicks, of course. You just switch your brain off and, that was funny. Yeah. But the reason why movies like this exist, and what Hammer's done so well, is they've changed it up. So you're not just getting, like, there's A24 today. Every one of their movies, like, they're interchangeable. You watch one, you've watched them all.
Yeah.
Like, they're all trying to be super cerebral. They're all trying to be this movie, but it's so ham-fisted, a lot of them, that they're they actually trip themselves up because they're trying to be clever without actually being clever.
I find as well they've. If you look, Hammer was a successful company, and film companies today should be looking at saying, well, what made them successful? You know, why are we not being that successful? I know you shouldn't reinvent the wheel, but you've got to give the people what they want, and films like this back in the 60s is what the people wanted.
Yeah, but you're not going to get 5 of these in a row. That's the difference.
No, that's right.
You're not going to get, like, we'll have Brides of Dracula before this.
Yeah.
You're not getting, you know, it's a completely different movie. I'm trying to let's call up what we've got next. We've got The Curse of the Werewolf next.
Oh, yeah.
So there's, you know what I mean? A completely different movie.
Oliver Reed, is that one? That's the werewolf?
Can't remember. But you know what I mean? There's a completely different movie. They're not doing that was released. Yeah, as Oliver Reed.
It's not The Three Faces of Dr. Jekyll or something.
Yeah. That's what they do. That's what they do wrong today. Oh, the Two Faces of Dr. Jekyll was really popular. Let's do the Three Faces of Dr. Jekyll, and let's make a Dr. Jekyll a woman this time, and just tell the same story. Oh, look at us. You know, that's what they do today.
Oh, let's bring in Superman saving Mr. Hyde from Dr. Jekyll. Yeah, it was. Oliver Reed was the werewolf. I thought he was. Yeah, class.
So there you go. We're getting a completely different, and there's Oliver Reed. There's a completely different experience when you see an actor on screen.
Yeah.
I covered way back. Oh God, about 2 years ago, covered Burnt Offerings. There's an intense movie. Good idea. That was one of our contributors. Came on with that. Who was that? Came on with that.
They've given the usual crowd the day off by the looks of it. You've got no Peter Cushing or Christopher Lee in this one.
That's probably because they're doing Horror Express and other movies. What does it say? Between them, they did about 1,000 movies.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, I think Christopher Lee alone did like 280 movies.
Yeah.
Look at them today. Sue Robbins and I covered Burnt Offerings, Oliver Reed. That was an intense movie.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see that. But you're just not getting this repeated. You know, oh, look, we got it right this time. Let's beat it to death and do it over and over.
Yeah, it's all these superhero movies that are out at the moment.
Are they still good?
Marvel and stuff like that. And you think, oh my God, no, it's all CGI. It's not.
Do you know the best thing? And this is what I'm saying about people putting there's people's entire personality around that fandom, so they need it, and they're nothing without it.
Yeah.
And this is what I'm talking about, being a whole person. See if you just let go of that stuff and just just washes over me. I'm not even going to waste my time on it. You instantly become a happier person. You know it's shit. You know it's made by subpar people, and you know what you're going to get now, and you know it's just been overdone. So just let it alone. The fact that people will still watch those. If I was to do another channel talking about those movies, I'd have 3 times the number of subscribers as we do now.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? If I was to jump on the the flipping Star Wars shit that was on recently, you know what I mean? There's another TV series or something. If I was to sit and just watch and moan about it, I would get, you know what I mean, thousands of views.
Yeah.
But why would I waste my time? First of all, why am I going to waste my time on something that makes me unhappy when I know it's going to be shit? Also, why are people watching? Why are people wasting their time watching reviews of movies and TV shows that they know is done and still almost hanging on? It's their whole personality put into one thing, and when it's gone or it's destroyed, they're broken. And this movie, back to this movie's exploring those sort of things here.
Yeah.
What happens that, if you don't express yourself fully and healthily and acknowledge all aspects of your personality, you're going to act out.
And
And
the standard thing of acknowledging who you are and what you are as well is a common theme, isn't it?
The Violent Drunk is a perfect example.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't drink whiskey. It makes me into a fighter. And this. No, you're already that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's already in you. You can't blame.
Like I said previously,
Taking the blame. Oh,
so
when
many,
I drink this cup of tea, I become a good podcaster. Do you know what I mean?
There's so many characterizations in this because Christopher Lee is part. He's acknowledging, and he does, that he's a gambler, and he's thousands of pounds in debt, and he can't stop because he's borrowing more money to fund.
And he can't stop. He could give him all the money in the world, and he'll blow through it the next day. And
he's real. His part really is the real life in this day and age. He'd be called the playboy, wouldn't he? The casino playboy, because he's just
an addict.
Bets all this money and goes with somebody else's wife.
Do you remember the TV show with Robbie Coltrane, Cracker?
Yeah.
He's that character.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He's that character. Look at like I said, I've known lots of gambling addicts, and they're up. And the example in this is he owed £2,000.
I actually liked the Christmas special of that one. It's a Christmas cracker.
See why you're addicted to terrible jokes? You can actually see you getting the twitches, the DTs, if you haven't told a shit joke in a stream. Honestly, watching the stream, and if he doesn't get one off early and he's holding it back, you can just watch Steve getting like he starts to get the sweats and all, and it's like it's all just building up and it has to come out. That's a form of addiction.
Yeah.
We love you for it, man.
Yeah. Now I used to be addicted to soap, but I'm clean now.
Wah, wah, wah. Oh dear. But yeah, the whole journey, like the whole thing about own the 2000, and he was gonna, right, I'll sub you up to 5. Can you just give it to me now? And that would be gone. Hide that. He knows what he's playing with.
Yeah, he said no, just give me the tickets. Yeah.
And you think it's just planned to get revenge on him for Kitty, but there's another level to it again, which we're not going to spoil this movie, by the way, folks, because you really should watch it.
Yeah, it's one of the better ones. Wow.
Honestly, you'll get
put it up there along with the Dracula movie anyway, the first Dracula movie, because it's in its own different class, isn't it?
But even not as a horror movie, not as a Hammer movie, as a movie, this is a movie that you can watch today.
Can't compare it in any way with the Draculas or the Frankensteins, because it's its own. It's on its own pedestal, isn't it? It's there.
And Universal Monster never used to do this.
How can we compare it with Chris Lee and Dracula and Frankenstein? You just can't compare it, even though it's got its own stamp.
And here's something I'll say, which might be heresy, but we have said in a lot of movies that having either Peter Cushing without Christopher Lee or vice versa is a shame. I don't think Peter Cushing would have added anything to this movie by being in it.
I don't think there was any part in it he could have played.
He couldn't have played Hyde.
He couldn't have played
Jekyll.
Litra.
He wouldn't have been convincing as Paul.
No, I think the only part he could have played, and it just wouldn't have fitted him, so he couldn't have played it, was the Doctor at the beginning, but it just wasn't.
No,
he's just not that type of Doctor material.
No.
Dr. Van Helsing, isn't he? Or Professor Van Helsing type.
Yes.
Of,
Or Dr. Frankenstein. You know, I mean, he's that sort of.
Yeah. He's not a straight laced doctor.
No. So here's one I found. The only movie I found myself saying that Peter Cushing didn't need to be in it. He wouldn't have added anything. And Christopher Lee, this is where, because at the moment, Christopher Lee has been in Peter Cushing's shadow. I think you can say that's a fair point, apart from Dracula. But even then, Peter Cushing, you know, owns the role as Van Helsing. Up until this movie, Christopher Lee has been in the shadow of Peter Cushing, just from his performances. This is, I would argue, one of his best performances in this movie, and he's a supporting character.
He acts well. He nails it, doesn't he? He nails the part.
But he's a supporting actor. He doesn't overshadow Massey, who's the lead. That is skill, and that is major confidence in yourself and not being pure unbridled ego. By being a supporting actor and still giving it 100% and giving a fantastic performance without overshadowing the main character. The egos today couldn't let that happen.
No.
They couldn't do it. You'd look at even all the big ensemble movies now. What do you call that? The flipping Expendables ones, you know, them that seemed like fun at the start. And then like the second one, that all the egos come into play from the 80s. And they couldn't just, they all started to overshadow each other, and then they started bickering and fighting in real life because they're used to being like the sole star and they can't give way for anyone else. That's, you know, that's the culture that we'll have today. In fact, it's gone past that. It's complete mediocrity today.
Christopher Lee is quoted as saying that this part was one of his personal favorites.
I could see it because he's I think Christopher Lee got into acting because he wanted to challenge himself. Like, even when we get the Taste of Blood of Dracula, he didn't want to be in it. And when you watch that, he's bored. You know, he didn't just want to be wah-ha-ha-ha-ha, you know, hiding in the shadows. In this movie, he is going through a range of emotions.
Christopher Lee originally was put in the lead role in the film, and he didn't want it. So this is where they brought along the Paul Allen role for him. But not impressed with a few scenes.
Imagine having the talent to be able to do that. Go, actually, I don't need me ego stroked. I don't need to be the lead. I just want to play a good part.
Yeah,
and also you get the idea with Hammer that there's a collaborative aspect. This is an acting troupe. This is the old school acting troupe. You know what I mean? You have the same writer, producers. These guys could be going around on a stage. You know what I mean? It's still that old school sort of stage acting troupe, and we're playing Macbeth this week, we're playing Hamlet, we're doing Othello. You know what I mean? That's the vibe you get from the Hammer group, especially the horror. You know what I mean? It's the same troupe of actors, and they know what they want to do, and they probably sat down, and had discussions.
If you think in this day and age you'd have a video on one of the YouTubes over 20 roles that were offered to so and so but turned down, you know, and you'd watch them, and you know, back then Christopher Lee probably went, well, I don't want to be the main character, you've offered it to me, I don't want it, you know, why can't I do that one instead? So you question then, I mean, it's not written whether
but I don't think it was to make a statement. This would have all been a conversation behind the scenes. The audience, don't forget, this stuff only came out years later.
This is a strange one. Paul Massey claims that Hammer only actually wanted him for the role of the younger looking Hyde. He was the one that actually argued for him playing both parts in the older.
They probably never thought. They probably never thought it was possible. which is strange as well because that's what they would do in a stage show. But we're seeing history here. We're seeing the advent of cinema. We're seeing the progression and the evolution of cinema here. That's why this series that we're doing is so fascinating. We're seeing how they were still figuring it out.
Mm.
And they were wanting to try new things. So the idea of having an older character and a younger character, I'm sure they did it with Frankenstein. They had the young boy playing him, and then obviously Peter Cushing playing the older one. They were probably trying to do that.
Mm.
But in fairness to Massey, he probably saved them money. If you think about him arguing to play both roles, he saved them the money of finding another actor.
Yeah, you could just imagine. I want 2 salaries, one for Jekyll and one for Hyde.
It wouldn't have, it wouldn't have happened like that. But
the snake scene, the BBFC ordered that the snake dance scene, some brief glimpses of nudity, and one of the murder scenes were all to be reduced in content. So does that mean that the snake scene was more than we saw?
Probably. I didn't like when she was swinging the snake around and that. Just like I said, it's cruel.
Yeah. So it looks like there was more to it than we saw with the snake. So, but yeah, no, I was impressed with it. It's the sort of film I'd watch again. In fact,
absolutely.
I watched it my normal 3 times, and in fact, I know I fell asleep on one, people, because photographic evidence has been provided by.
Yeah. But yeah, I had so much fun with this, and I like a movie that makes me think, and reflect.
Yeah.
And yeah, can't speak highly enough of it.
It's the sort of movie that if Chris had been in on this review, we would have had a theory from Chris, wouldn't we?
Oh yeah. One thing I would have liked to see with this is obviously he's created the serum.
Yeah.
But then what would the effect have been on other people? I would have liked to see what Paul would have been like in the serum and Kitty. Yeah. But then again, that's just me being, overthinking it. And today they would have done that. And today that would have been the sequel.
Yeah.
And they would have beat it to death and not done it well. So
yeah.
This is what, when you think about what ifs and you're still thinking about a movie after you've watched it, it's done its job.
Yeah, because there's still lots of questions that you could delve into if you look at each individual character, and you think, "Whoa, yeah," and that's the intellectual side of this film. It's
right, all you Jordan Peele scholars out there,
yeah,
I can't believe these people exist. Study this one. Here's a proper movie.
Yeah,
I can't believe that's a thing today. God, that's how low the bar is.
Yeah, this is so intellectual that they're even making a Jekyll-nado where the tornado's gonna.
I'm not doing it. I'm not covering it.
It's coming out, and as he comes out,
go in his head, go in his Jekyll's and then come out of hides.
Oh God!
Shut up! Right, shut up. No, somebody's now going to make that. Freaking the Calvin's watching. He's probably going to make it.
They're going to go, oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah. The next one will be me. You'll see the hands appearing around Steve's neck. Well, there you go. That was fun. Steve, thanks very much. This is a great one to talk about.
People, if you're watching this, watch the film.
Mm-hmm. A lot of fun. And it really does make you think. It's nice to have a movie like that.
Yeah.
And next up, we're doing The Curse of the Werewolf with Oliver Reed. So that'll be interesting.
Yeah.
An overexcited Oliver Reed performance is always fun.
I used to be a werewolf, but I'm all right. No!
And on that note, everyone keep up to date with the channel, do the typey clicky things, and remember to keep it creepy, keep it horrific.